Make real change. Make change real. The process is beautiful. Empower your mentality to make real change of the world. So, I've taken a sabbatical from the idea of change, but I came up with a few different things. Like I said previously, my job is to coach the idea. What is an idea? An idea is a thought or concept that comes to mind and has the potential to bring about new things, right? The idea, the essential idea is to bring about new things. And I'm here to coach the idea of change. So the idea of change has these elements or byproducts about them. And I talk about what is a process. And basically, a process are the steps that it takes, right? So the idea process is first you have an idea, then you take some steps to set this idea in motion so that you can make your ideas real to you. But I want to talk about change as an idea, an aspect of change that is an idea, right? So I start this whole thing with the best book in the world, right? Bible. Okay. And I start with this idea. And we got to talk about God's idea for us. And the best scripture is the beginning, right? Let's start at the beginning. But this powerful idea is in Genesis 1 and 2. It says, the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. So, in that idea, what are we talking about? The earth was formed without form and void. That means there was no earth. Conceptually, there was nothing, right? Darkness was on the face of the deepness of the darkness. So when I see that, I think there was no earth. In our minds, we look at like Big Bang Theory, right? This was before then. The universe didn't have anything. There was just nothingness and void and darkness. If you ever look into somebody's pupil, what do you see? Take a deep look in their pupils. Don't shine any light into there because there's no light now. That was our universe. Looking into the black hole. But however, there was a thing called the Spirit of God. The Spirit of God. And what was it doing over this black hole? Right? In science, it teaches us that anything that is next to a black hole, because of the density in space, the black hole sucks everything into it. I hope somebody caught that one because I did. So it says, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters of the deep darkness. Make that make sense. So are we saying that the density of a black hole is essentially water? Plural. Some type of liquid form that's so dense in our space that it sucks everything towards it. But the Spirit of God was able to not be sucked into it. It kind of hovered over it. Think about that. Think about how powerful that Spirit of God was. Because we, in our minds, have made up this black hole theory, right, in physics and space, that anything that this black hole comes into contact with, it'll suck it into it. It just essentially eats space, right? It eats up space because it's so dark, it's so dense that anything that stands next to it just sucks right in. Many scientists say that that's what happens when suns and stars pass away. It sucks the entire universe into it, or entire cosmos into it, or whatever it is. It just sucks it in. So, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. So think about that. This particular thing, in the next 3 verses, or the next verse, it says, "Then God said, let there be light." Now I'll go ahead in the people, flashlight in there. What do you get to? Let there be light. And there was light. So now we look in the people. There's light now. Flash. Big bang. And we look in the back of the eye and the pupil, and now we can see a reflection, right? We see a powerful reflection. And when you get to the back of the eye, there's the look at the anatomy of the eye. You could see. You go through the lens. The lens is a reflection, and it refracts the light, so that whatever you're looking into reflects whatever is looking out. Total concept. As a result, this whole concept formulates the bigger picture of our lives. That is conception, that is idea, and that is essentially is creation at its finest. The greatest influence in your life has just become real to you. Science, technology, and the Bible, these truths, these purposes, have just become real to you. Now, what changed when God said, let there be light? Immediately, creation began. Why? Because when you shine a light in the pupil, it has nothing to do but reflect what was shined into it. So when he said, let there be anything else, that Spirit of God filled that void in that moment. And light. And there was light. Light showed up. Said, hey, I can reflect back in these pupils. I can start to see things when you look at the eye. But if you also think about space and what you've taught in as far as quantum mechanics, if you were to shine a light into the middle of that, they would say that it would be what? Absorbed. Or would it? Where would it go? You think the black hole absorbs all light? But if you put light into the black hole, what would the black hole produce? That's the question we have to think about. I have to do more research on that. So any of you quantum physics, any of you astrologers, astronomers want to just kind of tell me about it, I'm into that. I'm super nerdy about that kind of thing. I'm interested in knowing what happens if the black hole that's in space, light was actually in the middle of it. What would that black hole become? Would it become a sun? Hello. Would it become sun? If I had to make a theory, maybe the sun. As a result of this word, there shall be light. The environment changed. The God concept of let there be light as a metaphor for life and change. The entire environment around this deep changed just by one word, or by a word from God, from the Spirit of God. See, we got to understand something. Before the beginning, there was God and God was there. But see, this particular thing is the Spirit of God. If we believe in a triune God, there's God the Father that sits above all universes, right? Then you have God the Son, which is Jesus Christ. Then you have the Spirit of God, who was there at the beginning of creation, who created all. Very breath, right? Who created all was the Spirit of God, was hovering over the face of the deep. Then the Godhead said, "Let there be light." And there was light. So the Creator said, "Let there be light." Don't get it confused with the Spirit of God. All the same God. But what actually spoke to man, or whatever spoke to this thing, was God himself. So whatever God speaks, you understand, no word from God comes back void. So there always is a byproduct when God speaks. So God speaks, you hear, everything changes, I'm captivated, I'll never be the same. Now he said with just one look, it should be just one word. With just one word, everything changes, I'm captivated, I'll never be the same. With just one word. Really, it's let there be light. Nothing was the same at that point. Everything in our cosmos changed, and we began. This powerful idea of letting there be light is the absolute conception of creation. Light was. And then there was light. But there was always a darkness as well. Interesting. So we got to understand this concept of light, that this thing called innovation happened immediately when God said, "Let there be light." Innovation began. The development was light, the education was light, and the governance at this point were light. I'm not going to get into any details as of yet. I'm going to kind of milk this thing because you're probably like, what are you talking about? Good. If I got your attention, good. Hopefully I grabbed it. So let's talk about change. What is this idea? But you got to understand, that's the original concept. But what is change? So change refers to a process of transitioning from one state, condition, or situation to another. It involves a shift or an alteration in something's form, structure, behavior, or characteristics. Change can occur in various aspects of your life. So change happens various aspects. And even it happens like daily. Like you experience some version of change, some aspects of change every single day. You have to change directions. You have to make a right, not a left. You may have to calibrate on your GPS system. There is some form of change that happens throughout your day. And when it happens, there's some things that occur. There's some things physiological that occur. There's some things that you do innately as a human being, and there's some things that you won't do innately as a human being when change is at your door. So change can occur in various aspects of your life, including personal, social, organizational, or environmental. It can be driven by internal factors, such as choices. It can be driven by external factors, so things that are outside of you, such as like societal change. Like this is an election year. Society is going to change some things. We're going to have to work through some political challenges. We're going to have to work through our economic differences. We're going to have to work through all of those things, those factors, right? And they can be societal, they could be technological, or they can be environmental forces. So like the weather changing. Shoot, when I moved to Nebraska, holy smokes, never in a million years would I thought it'd be so close to tornadoes. As a kid growing up, I was afraid of tornadoes. Scared me. I used to have dreams about being in tornadoes. Now my dreams as an adult, I'm actually like in cars riding tornadoes. Like, whoa, wow. literally praying to God, because tornadoes are things that happen that are completely out of your control. You don't know where it's going to hit. You don't know when it's going to hit. You can't predict who's going to get hit. All of a sudden, you just in the middle of it. Like, oh my God, I'm in shelter now. Wind is howling and we're just getting blown. Like, don't mean to exasperate it, but golly, tornadoes can be the most frightening thing or the most fascinating thing. And people out here in Omaha are different. They will sit outside and watch these things. Oh, but I will say this: being out here in Omaha and watching a tornado is like really eye-opening. Like, you feel like there is a God. Like, this is God country for real, because when you see something like that, only God or something could do that. For me, I just know there is a God when I see a tornado. I ain't gonna load you up. Like really witnessing and seeing the earth move like that and change like that, and I have no control over that. Nobody has any control over that. I don't care how rich you are, how poor you are, how much influence you got. At the end of the day, you can't control that right there. That weather thing, you have no control over that. You have no power to change it. You don't have no power to determine that. You have no power to switch that. But here's the amazing thing about God. When I'm reading the Bible and it said that Jesus said to the storms, "Peace, be still," and called it, and he had control over the wind and the sea, that lets you know the true manifested power and the glory of the Son of God. And I am not ashamed to talk about that. But anyway, I rest my point. That's why I said, oh, God is good, and all the time he's good. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that Jesus could call to this wind and the sea and all of those things and say, "Peace, be still," to something like that, when you witness a real tornado in the midst of your time, or when you just like, whoa, this is a tornado, you hear them sound, you hear all that going on around you and people panicking, and then some people fascinating and chasing these things down and trying to see the twisters and all that kind of stuff. It makes you think. At least it makes me think, because I like to read the Bible and I like to listen to the Bible stories and I like to just kind of look into the concepts and that kind of thing. But the fact that Jesus said, "Peace, be still," to something like that and had the power over it, come on now. How could you not believe? And I see why he was frustrated. He like y'all still don't understand I was there from the beginning. You still don't understand that the Spirit of God was hovering over the deep in the darkness. And then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Come on now. Y'all don't even believe that. You don't believe in the power. You don't believe in the manifested power even when you see it. I got to put a tornado in there to remind you, to say, listen, this is who you are. This is what you were made of. This is your creator talking. People ate it up. Social media went crazy. I got so many texts from people. "You all right? You okay? You safe?" My family members I ain't talked to in years. "You okay? You safe?" "Yeah, I'm good, Auntie. I'm good. I'm good, cuz we straight." You know what I'm saying? Me and mine is good. "Y'all okay? Y'all okay out here in Nebraska?" "Yeah, I'm good." Anyway, I digress. So it can be driven by these environmental forces. So change. Tornadoes change people's lives, and I don't mean to make it silly, but I mean in a very serious manner. It changed those people who were impacted, those people who lost their homes, people who lost their businesses. There's people who've lost like brand new dream homes. It was a serious matter, very serious, but it changed the way they do things. Though that environmental change just flipped their lives upside down. And for those people who suffered during those tornadoes, my heart, my prayers, my everything go towards you guys. Because the things that you have to endure and the changes that you had to make impactful in your life. losing everything and then having to change addresses. Some people changing school districts just because of something like that happened that was environmental and out of their control, an external factor. Change, right? It's important for us to understand that change can be gradual and it can be incremental, right? It can happen very steady. You can have change over time, like progression. Progress is something that is incremental. It can step by step. For example, I threw the shot put, and one of my goals was to do 2 to 3 inches every day in practice better than before. I would take a cone and set it out there or draw a line with my foot at the 50-foot mark, and I would strive to hit it. Once I got past it, I would move that line back to maybe 55 and try to incrementally get to that line. But it was a process, the step by step. So remember, we talked about process. So what I used to do is go in the weight room and put 5 pounds on the bench press. And each week, I would go up 5 pounds. Get 5 pounds stronger every week. Now, if you add up 5 pounds a week, times that by how many lifts we got a week. Now you can push some weight because incrementally you're going up, and it's gradual change over time that happens, right? Sometimes change is not gradual or incremental. Sometimes it is abrupt and disruptive, like the tornado. You don't know when it's going to touch down, and it changes everything for you. Abrupt and disruptive. Divorce can be disruptive, abrupt. Death, someone dying in your life, that's abrupt and disruptive. Especially if children losing parents, that's abrupt and disruptive. That change, or CPS worker removing a child, God forbid, from their parent, right? That's abrupt and disruptive change, right? Trauma is abrupt and disruptive change. People who go through those types of immediate traumas, abrupt and disruptive. Motor vehicle accidents, abrupt and disruptive change, right? Change can also be unplanned and unexpected. Hey, we've all been there. Were you trying to have that baby, or were you, you thought you was, what I'm saying? Thought you was good. That game wasn't working for you, right? So unplanned, parents, unplanned change, right? I wasn't planning for that. I'm in my 40s. How could we have a baby? Miracle, right? I wasn't planning for that. Unplanned change. Getting fired. Nobody plans to get fired from a job. Unplanned, unexpected. So it's also, those unplanned things are most likely imposed externally, circumstances or events beyond your control. I mean, I did put a condom on. Yes, you did, but you still, a lot of things happen in those moments beyond your control. Okay. The examples of change that are unplanned and unexposed or results of an event beyond one's control are dangerous, right? And negatively influence the ideas in your life. So the original pattern or the thing that you were trying to accomplish, it becomes difficult for you now. It now becomes a challenge for you that you were not expecting, right? You weren't expecting to have that oh, I'm pregnant moment, right? You weren't expecting to have this, I wasn't planning for that. Oh man, I wasn't planning to lose my job. I have to transition to look for another job. I thought I was doing a good job, but apparently I'm fired. I'm laid off. Wow, the budget was cut. This is what? Wait, I lost my program. I lost it. I don't know. Negatively influence your plans. So when you, for example, I was laid off. I had plans. I was going back to getting I was going to go back to PT school and make an effort to do it, and everything got derailed. Right? negatively influenced the idea. So the idea was to go to PT school, got laid off, lost the tuition credit, had to make a pivot in my life, had to change, right? The change happens both ways. First, the decision is made externally that's dangerous and influences and imposes the negative influence of the idea in your life, which for me was going to be a physical therapist. Now, I had to deal with that change that wasn't going to happen because of external change or decision that was made and imposed on me. Because, dude, you don't have blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing. You have to lean into that stuff. You know, the obvious solution is that. But we're talking about change, not solutions right now. I just want to give you a big picture, and I'm going to get up out of here. Okay? The answer to the majority of people, let me back up. So here's another thing. So a lot of things can be imposed upon you. So I use the example of being married. So an event that happens between a married couple is like when a spouse steps outside the marital vows and fidelity of the relationship becomes in question. The answer for the majority of people is the idea of divorce. So this abrupt change to decide something like divorce, that could be an imposed event. So like you just getting served papers like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. That's an imposed event on you, right? Another example of negative change is the idea that could be in business, right? So when a business executive uses the company's money for their own personal needs, this is imposed change that destroys the company because now you lose a CEO because of embezzlement, right? When you look at change, it's important to understand the aspects of change. So there's aspects of change, which we'll get into, that are experienced during the processes of change. And it sets the foundation of significance through the idea. And I haven't even told you what the idea is yet. Just know it's an acronym for something. There's change to me brings about this idea. The conceptual idea that you have in your head, but also there's 4 things that the idea represents. And I'm not going to get into it today, but I'm going to let you chew on it. Okay, so if you're listening to me, I'm sorry for the cliffhanger, but you ain't ready for it yet. Well, I'm ready, but I don't know if you're ready. I'm ready, but just think it. It's the idea, right? The idea of change. You have to go through these aspects of change, and you have a change process that happens, but ultimately it's the idea of this change that you have to embody during the time of change to determine how you successfully go through, manage, and embody change for your life. So that's what we're talking about. Okay? So again, Coach King, macro change, make change real. Macro change, make change real. The process is beautiful. Empower your mentality to make change to the world. Peace out.